Hey, I'm McCoy here, and you are listening to the Solar Panel, the Phoenix Suns show.
So we are on All-Star Weekend. The Phoenix Suns have a break. We have decided collectively that we want this to be the most positive episode on the Phoenix Suns that we have done in a very long time.
So we're not talking Phoenix Suns.
If I could wring your neck through this, I would.
Today's episode, Mr. Dave King.
Hola.
Greg Esposito.
I'm glad to see that we got off to the positive start with Dave saying he wants to strangle you to death. A very Homer Simpson.
Well, there's nothing
approach.
more positive about a start than saying we're going to be positive. Because everyone wants it to.
So
you guys kill me.
I figured we would start this episode and we could talk about how great Mikal Bridges' defense has been. His steal percentage, 2.4%, puts him in the 91st percentile among players at his position. And he is holding opponents to 45.8% shooting, which is second on the team, tied with Josh Jackson. Rashawn Holmes does have the best record, if you will, for keeping opponents with a lower shooting percentage. And he's doing this as a rookie.
Yeah, Mikal Bridges is really fun to watch on defense. I love how he slides his feet. He doesn't like hop or jump like most rookies do. Most rookies don't know how to keep their feet close to the, just sliding. They generally jump in and out of position, flip their hips way too quickly. And Mikal Bridges is just really sublime watching that. Unfortunately, he's just a little bit thin for the kind of guys he's being asked to guard these days. And so sometimes he gets overpowered. And then, of course, he gets put against their very best offensive player at the very end of the game. And it's hard to stop the NBA's very best offensive players, which we saw in a couple of game winners that could have snapped this 15-game losing streak at some point. But I love the future of Mikal Bridges. I think he's going to be a very, very good one.
Evan Sidery had a comparison that he put up comparing Paul George's rookie season stats to Mikal Bridges, and they are eerily similar.
Yeah, I don't think Mikal has the alpha mentality that Paul George had. I totally see that their skill sets are similar, and I see that Mikal is going to be a very good shooter, and he's going to be able to put the ball on the floor. He doesn't pass very much, but he plays great defense. So I don't. Obviously, Paul George quickly grew into an MVP caliber player, and I don't see that. But it's a really good comp for where they are right now, and that comp is that they're better than their numbers suggest. They are not a primary option on their teams, as Paul George wasn't as a rookie either. So I think this is a very interesting comp, but I wouldn't expect this to mean that we think that Paul George is going to be MVP or Mikal Bridges is going to be MVP caliber anytime soon.
It's interesting. I wonder if he could wind up being the best draft pick out of that entire Ryan McDonough time, and ironically, not even really his pick. It sounds like, as he wanted Shai Gilgeous-Alexander instead of apparently. I got extremely excited there, but apparently I'm 12 again. But
changes.
I just really like that Mikal Bridges.
We're just going through the change.
I'm young like the Suns there. Yeah, it'd be interesting because he has so much potential on both ends of the court, and we're barely scratching the surface with this kid. And I don't know. I actually looked at stats for this episode. I don't know who the hell I am, but
and what did you pull up, Greg? Please tell us.
Well, look, the fact that the Suns have the second worst defensive rating in the league, it doesn't bode well when you're talking about a defensive player like Mikal Bridges. But then you look, wow, they're second in steals, which is pretty impressive, and that has a lot to do with Mikal and the way he plays and just his sense for the ball there. So it's a shift in mentality that I think we're going to see with this Suns team, depending on who the hell becomes GM. That's not negative. That's just a fact. But it looks like a shift in mentality about what this team might want to be in the long run. And I think Mikkel Bridges is the poster boy for the kind of player that they want to start bringing in, and that mentality that they want. I mean, Kelly Oubre is very much of the same mentality. They claim Tyler Johnson is, but we haven't seen much from him yet. But I can understand the kind of player they want to bring in, the kind of mentality and that grittiness that you want to see. And I like that Mikhail's bringing it.
Well, to your point.
So would you say, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say Josh Jackson actually is tied with Mikal Bridges to holding opponents 45.8% shooting from the field. So tied for second on the team with Mikal Bridges.
Josh has gotten some good help, I think, this year in seeing how he can play well. It helped him a year ago talking to Jay Triano about how he can make a difference as a rookie, and they had actually had a sit down where they figured out how he could get his points, how he can get his rebounds, impacting the game in ways beyond just handling the ball and jacking up a shot. And then this year, Josh seems to be learning about that his activity levels can be a difference maker in the game, and whether he's always under control or not is a matter of maturity, basketball maturity. But certainly, I think he has seen with Kelly Oubre and with Mikal Bridges and guys like that you can get your difference making effort out there, and that does count. So it's been good for him that way. Josh obviously is getting better as the year progresses, just like he did before. He is on his third coach or fourth?
Third.
Yeah.
Third coach in just a year. So it's one of those things where maybe the Suns ought to think about a little bit more stability. But then again, why be stable with the league's worst franchise? So it's a tough call. But we're staying positive today, so we're not going to talk about that being the league's worst franchise.
I wonder, is he on his fourth player development coach, though, in that time? I got to go back and look, but that's part of it, too, because these guys don't always work as closely with the head coach. I mean, they do, but the player development coaches work closely with the young guys, and that has an impact, too. The defensive side of things is an interesting one from the pure fact that it's where you really see that the sum of the parts here don't equal what's going on, because there's a lot of individual
individual parts don't increase the sum.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say, because when you look at it, there's a lot of defensive talent on this team, but when you put it together, it has an equal team defensive success, and that's kind of been the story of this team. We look at it and we think there is more talent than we've seen in years past here, but it's not equaling the wins. Yeah, right. It's not working.
Right. So if you look closer at the Suns defense, there's the reason they're second worst in the league is because they give up by far the most points at the rim, most points within 3 feet of the rim, and not necessarily the highest finishing percentage. Like, I think the Suns are mid-pack on defensive field goal percentage allowed in the 3 foot, the painted area. But they give up the most attempts in that area, which means other teams are just attacking the Suns because the Suns are playing a 6'8", 6'7", 200-pound guy at power forward most of the time. So while the Suns are getting these steals and leading the league since December 1st, second in the league, I think, since December 1st in steals and deflections and things like that, they're getting that by trying to be active on the perimeter. But once the ball gets inside the paint, there's no steals happening because players don't get the ball stolen then because the ball's already over their head and being ready to be shot and finished. DeAndre Ayton is not a very good rim protector, but it doesn't help that the Suns are playing 6'7" guys at power forward.
Oh, I think it doesn't help either that in most cases, at least at the beginning of the year, the point guard position as well wasn't exactly a defensive stalwart, so it caused some issues on switches that would put Ayton out of position down low, and things like that too. So
Well, certainly, yeah. No, he's definitely all the switches and all the pick and roll defense and all that is taking Ayton away from the rim. So it's not always Ayton getting beat at the rim. It's that Ayton's getting switched out away from the rim, and somebody else is having to defend that. And that guy is not only 6'7", 6'8", but also only about 200 pounds. So there's really no way to contest. So other teams are just going two bigs and killing the Suns inside. And when the Suns go crazy and try to over effort their way to equaling on rebounds, and when there's a miss, actually getting the rebound sometimes, that's been helpful. But that first shot is just nonstop. That attempt at the rim is just nonstop, and so the Suns by far lead the league in points allowed in the painted area.
And not that I trust your opinion, but what kind of power forward do you think is ideal then in this situation going into this offseason?
Oh, the kind of power forward I think is ideal would be, if I'm going to think outside the box, a guy like a Jaren Jackson Jr. who was taken, fourth or fifth this year? Fourth, I think, overall. That kind of guy who's really active, can move, can shoot. I think actually Aaron Gordon would be very, very good now that I've seen how DeAndre Ayton plays, what kind of space he takes up on the floor and all that. I think in Aaron Gordon, a very active, athletic power forward who doesn't have to be a leading rebounder type, but can defend the rim and rebound aggressively while being one of the most athletic guys in the league. Those are very few and far between. There's probably only 3 or 4 guys in the entire league who'd be a perfect fit. So the Suns tried to go a little small. They realized they went a little bit too small. But now you can't overcompensate and just bring in a lumbering guy like an Enes Kanter or something and say, put him at power forward. And I don't agree with people who say Richaun Holmes should be a power forward just because he can provide some of the things you want. The guy cannot defend in space. He can't defend in the pick and roll. And the power forward has to be out there a lot more often than the center does. And Richaun Holmes cannot shoot outside of 5 or 10 feet. And so when neither he nor Ayton can shoot that far, and you don't want Ayton to suddenly become a power forward again either, you really need a more active, rangy guy who can play power forward. So ideally, an Aaron Gordon or a Jaren Jackson type.
I do wonder if DeAndre Ayton's more of a power forward than a center.
No, he's not.
He's not.
Why do you wonder that? Tell us why. Tell us what makes you say that.
Just he does have a little bit of range to him. He's not a great rim defender, and being positive, that's not a knock on him. He's just not a great rim defender. He does have a little bit of range. I actually think that he probably could shoot the 3, if not this season, because it doesn't seem like the coaching staff is going to let him. I think that at some point in the reasonably near future he could. He might just be a bit more naturally of a power forward. He did play it in college.
0 for 4 in the Rising Stars game from 3.
I just have to disagree, but Tim, you've played more basketball than me.
That was more
of
a question than a statement.
You know who I'd rather see at power forward than Richaun Holmes? Dragan Bender. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not doubling down on that. Please don't at me. I'm just kidding.
Can we talk about Greg, that you would rather have Dragan Bender than Richaun Holmes?
Do you really want to go back to this? I just meant Richaun Holmes is going to get overpaid, and I'd rather take a flyer on a guy like a Dragan Bender who may have more inherent talent that hasn't been tapped into at a much lower rate than I would want to overpay Richaun Holmes to the tune of $10 million. That was the whole point. So, Stop messaging me about it.
You and Rhett Reese are Skipper and Gilligan. On the deserted island, Bender Island.
Rhett's new child is.
Don't even get Marianne and Ginger.
Hey, Rhett's new child has joined us on the island too. He's a month old, so he doesn't know much about basketball, but he's all in on Bender. So.
Well, he doesn't know what a basketball win looks like.
He doesn't. That's true. This child has never seen a Suns win. That's crazy.
So I do want to thank a listener for supporting the show. And if you want to support the show, you can do so as well. If you're watching on YouTube right now, if you are listening on the podcast version, open up the show notes, look in the notes below, and you just hit that support the podcast button, and you can do a $1, a $5, or a $10 option. If you do the $10 option, I will personally send you some Sun swag. And this week, I do want to thank Cable Sage. Also, Cable Sage has an amazing name.
But
That's
by the
pretty
way,
awesome.
you can do a $100 donation. You just have to do the $10 one 10 times. So
Right.
just throwing that out there. If anybody's got deep pockets that's listening, you're more than welcome.
Greg is our math wizard.
No, it is really nice. So we do really appreciate it. It does go a long way. And thank you so much, Cable Sage.
Yeah, you keep keeping the lights on around here, which is it's good.
Cable
Except on
Sage
day-
sounds like the bad guy in a in a superhero movie, doesn't it?
Is that because in Deadpool 2 the quasi villain was named Cable?
Could be.
Yeah,
Maybe that's where I'm
probably
making the reference.
So
Thanks,
I'm
Greg.
really excited about it because we do not have a Synergy subscription. I do have Devin Booker's Synergy numbers. Would you guys like to talk about them
Pirated? Since
now?
you don't have the subscription, how do you
Yeah.
have the numbers?
A buddy of mine,
Pirated synergy. I love it. All right.
a buddy of mine supplied me with them. Do you guys want to talk about that now or when we come back
Yes.
from the break? It's up to you.
Let's talk about
let's
it
talk
now,
about it
because
now.
after the break, we'll talk about how to fix All-Star Weekend.
Hold on. Let me ask this. Are they positive numbers? Because if not, we're not
Yes.
allowed to talk about them on this episode.
They are. They're only positive. That's why I'm bringing it up. I thought this would be a good episode to bring them up on.
So are we sure that these pirated synergy numbers are real then? That's
Yes.
okay then. Let's go.
They're all offensive numbers.
Hey, I want to do a shout out that for the folks watching on YouTube, you've noticed this, but the people who just listen have not. We have all decided to wear our uniform for the podcast today. We're all in our purple shirts.
Tim's wearing a
that's
blue
awesome.
shirt, Dave.
I call it purple. I'm just calling it purple.
Mine is the Count from Sesame Street.
Mine is the timeline,
Oh, nice.
which is now dead thanks to James Jones's comments this week.
Well, no, because if you listen up, that's negative. James Jones has made a lot of comments, so I'm not sure if the timeline is dead or not. So let's get to these synergy numbers, Tim.
Please.
Devin Booker as the pick and roll ball handler. We're going to go through this as percentage of his time in offensive possession. So 40% of the time he is the pick and roll ball handler. 415 possessions for a total of 376 points, giving him a point per possession of a .906, with which ranks 68th in the league and a rating of very good.
68th out of
68%.
68th percentile.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm supposed to be, nope, positive episode. Good stuff.
It is 0.9 points.
For a shooting guard, that's very, very good.
Yeah.
Okay,
or
it is. It's
quasi
very great.
point guard.
Be quiet, Greg. It's great. Transition on the offensive end. He does this 17.5% of the time. Possessions, 192 points, 238 point per possession, 1.24. Fantastic. With a rating of very good, 76%.
That's good. 76 percentile is good in transition. Absolutely. We need to build on that.
Hold on, are
Greg.
these no, I have a legitimate synergy question here. It's not I'm not ripping on anything.
Greg.
Does the rating of very good actually come out of the synergy system?
Yes.
Oh, okay. This is one of the most advanced tracking metrics we've ever had in sports, right?
Well, they're going to
And-
switch to emojis here
and
pretty soon. I think.
Camera tracking. I see very good is the language they decided. Like they could have got like really analytical and in depth. And hey, very good.
I think what they do is the part that makes it more sophisticated is they break it up by play style type, and that's the information you can't get anywhere else.
Greg,
Okay.
they realized that there are people like you who need to be able to digest this information. So Tim spent actually about 12 seconds going through the actual stats of Devin Booker in those positions, and then culminated it with Synergy's wrap up on that row of very good. And guess what? The only thing Greg heard was very good. And then he made fun of it for a while, saying, shouldn't they be more sophisticated than that? When Tim spent 12 seconds on one row in the Synergy database on Devin Booker about the more sophisticated parts, but you didn't hear any of those.
My eyes glaze over. I stare at spreadsheets at work all week.
Right,
I don't need to do it here.
Greg, that's why they give a very good for people like you.
I want a rating like it's a Marco Milic. Give me like a player comp kind of rating. Like give me something I can sink my teeth in.
That would only be the jump stats that would look very good for Marco Milic.
Maybe there's a comment section. You can write them in email. Listen,
I'm sure they'd love that.
I'm sure they would love Greg wanting more descriptive descriptions of the actual stats, better than very good. And so when you're in the 90th plus percentile, does it say like fucking awesome or something like that?
I don't know. He's not in the 90th percentile.
Oh, no, I know. It's excellent. I think it's big. It's just a school grading scale. If you're in the 70 to 80, it's very good. If you're in the 80 to 90, it's good. And then I think 90 to 100 is excellent. It's pretty elementary grade, which means you should be able to keep up.
You just made my point. It's elementary in a sophisticated system.
Can we go through the stats?
Sure.
All right. Jesus, guys.
Tim hates us. I'm muting my mic. Go ahead, Tim. Stat away.
In isolation, which is 12% of the time, 131 possessions for 118 points. 0.901 points per possession in the 57th rank, which puts him as good. Honestly, a lot of isolation for Devin Booker comes at end of shot clocks, end of quarters. Yeah. The fact that he can, get 0.9 points off of each shot is, it's really not bad.
It's really not. He's put in a position. He puts himself in a position often, and then he gets put in that position as well of having to be the last guy standing with the ball and then chucking up something, creating shots. There's got to be an evolution on his part to where he doesn't have to do that every time. But right now he's in that mode where either he's forced to or he thinks he's forced to, and he gets himself into the break down as many guys as you can and try to get up a shot.
Off screen. These next three actually surprised me a bit. Off screen, 9% of the time, 98 possessions, and 91 points, 0.929 points per possession in the 46th percentile ranking of average. Spot up shooting. He does 8% of the time, 88 possessions, 79 points, 0.898 points per possession, putting him in the 32nd percentile with a rating of average. And dribble handoffs, 4.7% of the time, 52 shots, 39 points, 0.75 points per possession, putting him in the 27th percentile with a below average ranking, which is really surprising that when he plays off ball, apparently he's not all that good.
It's part of it is mentality.
Well,
he's just not used to it right now, and so he's not comfortable in that role, I guess.
Well, and part of it is who has the ball when he's playing off ball. I mean,
no, I mean, well, it depends, right? So a dribble handoff, I don't know who has the ball. I guess that could matter. Spot up shooting, coming off screens, like
it would depend on
definitely. He came into the league as, he was shooting about 60% on threes as a rookie in his first 2 months when he was coming off the bench, and playing basically the same role he had at Kentucky. And he was 18 years old. That's when everyone was like, ooh, this guy. And I remember Jeff Hornacek telling me that Devin Booker was going to be a multi-time All-Star when he started seeing him play at 18 years old, coming off the bench for the Suns, who were still competitive at the time. And then when everything fell off the rails, since then, Devin Booker's been basically the only option, and he's completely forgotten how to be a complementary player. I would love to see that again. He's got it. He won Sixth Man of the Year at Kentucky. He was excellent as a rookie, and obviously, and even just just an example of the three-point shooting contest. He's probably going to do real well again, although by the time you're listening to this, you'll know how he did in the three-point contest. When we're recording, we don't. But in the 2 times he's been in the contest, Devin Booker has finished in the top 3. So we'll see how it goes this year. But he's basically forgotten how to be a complimentary player. And so I'm not surprised he ranks that low. I'm disappointed he ranks that low, but I'm not surprised.
So if I'm being ignorant here, please walk me through it. But I would think the person who is getting you the ball in a spot up shooting situation does impact it, because it depends on where he's getting you the ball. Sometimes shot selection is obviously on Devin, but I would think that would impact how good you are as a spot up shooter.
Yeah, I mean, if they pass you the ball too low or too high and you aren't getting it, your natural.
Or if you didn't get space from the defender, like a lot of dribble handoffs do, which is, that is true to an extent that's true. But
off screens, whether or not he was coming off 1 screen or 2, would make a difference.
I mean, offensive system, and are you running it right? It could impact it. I'm trying to stay positive here.
No,
a semi-negative.
That's all contributing. You're absolutely right. It does contribute some, but then if you're one of the handful of best shooters in the game, you should be a little bit better. So we can look for. That's one of those things where you look at it and you go, "Huh, well, that's not a career-long thing," and you just go, "It will get better."
That's right, Dave. That's right. I like that take on it. Now, on that note, let's go ahead and take a break. And when we get back, we will talk about the All-Star Game, how to fix it. If you're on the YouTube version right now, you can go ahead and subscribe to the podcast version wherever you listen to podcasts at.